Nosedive when Hillary lost her layup election, causing her to sit in a bubbling puddle of self-pity asking, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. This pay-to-play favor factory had no more juice. So the money dried up. In 2016, when HRC was on the brink of certain nearly unchecked power, the sham scam took in an earth-shattering $62 million in party cash. In 2017, just a year later, they brought in a measly $26 million. Ooh, that's going to leave a mark. Why would billionaires and corrupt monarchs funnel so much dough unless there were guaranteed favors baked into the gifts? The short answer, they wouldn't. And once it became clear Hillary had no more power to offer, they didn't. The Clintons have always maintained their foundation was an above-board bastion of goodness in a saintly shop where lives were changed by the blessed trinity of shady saviors. When the badness of their campaign became apparent, why would the stinky fiefdoms of Qatar and Oman waste their millions on a self-pitying harpy who is now as useful as teats on a bowl? The Justice Department is smelling a whole lot of bull as the true nature of this game is made plain. And now they're investigating illegal policy moves by the former Secretary of State to see if she was pinching whale butts at Foggy Bottom. Well, you'd think Hillary would have more opportunity to do good with all this free time on her hands. If the charity were really that altruistic and effective, and with three essentially unemployed executives ready to roll up their sleeves, wouldn't these giving givers toss more checks to such a valiant bunch? Well, it is never okay for politicians to abuse their power for self-enrichment. And even for has-beens and also-rans, there has to be some brand of justice so present and future presidents don't get lured into taking crafty, well-disguised bribes, pretending it's charity. And that's the memo.
During Hillary's run for the White House, it raked in some $62 million. But after her loss, contributions have been drying up, falling over 40% to $26 million.
Our next guest argues this just proves that Clintons monetized their political influence through that foundation. Here to explain, former Assistant U.S. Attorney and Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy. Good morning, Andy. What do you say about all this?
Well, you know, I think, Griff, that there was a big miss during the email scandal because there was a lot of chatter, mainly driven by President Clinton, but also the Justice Department and the FBI, about whether Mrs. Clinton intended to harm the United States by setting up this private email communication system and destroying all these emails. And the thing is, not only was that not part of the case against her, not only was that not part of the classified information statute under which she was being investigated, it obscured what the real reason, I think, was for the fact that she set up this private system and destroyed all these emails, which is that during her tenure, the State Department was put in the service of the Clinton Foundation, which was a scheme to monetize her political influence. And that's what the lost evidence is about.
And that would explain why she took a hammer and a bleach bit, and she was so intent on making sure that this information never got out, because it would not just take her down, it could take down Chelsea and possibly her husband as well.
Yeah, Rachel, think about this. There's a lot of government people, we're learning more and more, who end up conducting some of their official duties on their private email. Sometimes it's just because of the necessity of a moment in time when, you know, you only have your private email with you and you have to respond to something. And most of that stuff is okay as long as a copy of the emails makes it into the file. But this isn't a situation where she even constantly conducted her business on private email. She set up a system in which to do it. She actually set up a system that was a totally private framework that was run out of the Clinton family home in New York, which, you know, is the headquarters of the Clinton Family Foundation. What a surprise.
What a surprise. Andy, you know, a lot of people you hear more about this. We've heard a lot about it. Will the Clintons ever be held to account for influence peddling?
Hard to say. You know, in some ways, Pete, if you look at it as a kind of a political society rather than a rule of law society, which I tend to look at it as, she has been held to account because I think cumulatively all of this cost her what everybody thought was a shoo-in election to the White House. So in some ways, the public has had its say, but you do hope at some point the legal system will have its say. Now, I would point out the Supreme Court has made it much harder to do political corruption cases by some decisions that it's made in the last few years. So it's a tough proof. But you know, the Republicans are talking about having a hearing on this before they cede control of the House to the Democrats. I think that'd be a really good thing.
It's a good point about the election, though. Andy McCarthy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Joining me now, Sarah Carter, investigative reporter and Fox Business contributor. Sarah, wow, so much to go at. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thanksgiving Eve. Let's begin with the Clinton Foundation probe. What has Attorney John Huber been up to? Has it been almost close to a year now? Why has this thing been drug out and taken so long? Why can't we get to the bottom of it?
Well, I think that's a question that quite a few people have had for some time now, Ashley. One of the things that they're going to be looking at, and I think Congress is very, very adamant about, is what has Huber been doing? Has he been looking into the foundation, the financial aspects of the foundation? The donations to the foundation, whether or not people within the Hillary Clinton Foundation actually misspent those funds. I know that there are going to be witnesses more than likely testifying beyond Huber at this hearing, or at least we'll hear about them. This is very important because this is new information that surfaced after Huber was appointed. So this is not based on anything previous, but new information, and I think that's very significant right now.
And joining me now is Corey Lewandowski, Trump's 2016 campaign manager and co-author of the new book, Trump's Enemies, out next Tuesday. And Antoine Seawright, former senior advisor to the Hillary Clinton campaign in South Carolina and the CEO of Blueprint Strategy. Thank you both for being with me tonight.
Hello, Lisa.
So, Antoine, I want to start with you. Hi, Corey. I want to start with you, Antoine. If there's potentially new information here, it's Oversight Committee's job is to investigate. Why wouldn't they look into it?
Well, Lisa, this is a prime example of why the Republicans lost control of the Congress just a few weeks ago on Tuesday, November 6th. They have investigated themselves into the minority. Here we are, once again, wasting taxpayers' dollars on something that does not exist. They spent so much time focusing on Hillary Clinton that they have not spent time putting forth a policy agenda that will move this country forward, and the voters responded the way they did on Tuesday night.
Well, Cordy, what do you make of what Antoine just said? I mean, isn't it the Oversight Committee's job to conduct oversight?
Well, look, of course, Lisa, and if new information is available, Mark Meadows and the committee have an obligation to the American taxpayers and to the Constitution to do their job to investigate wherever that may lead. So let's be very clear. We all know that the Clinton Foundation was not on the up and up. My only disappointment was that the Congress has taken this long to continue the investigation, that it wasn't done for the Justice Department prior to now. There is no way that the individuals or those countries from overseas that gave tens of millions of dollars for access to the Clinton Foundation, either when she was the Secretary of State or after, were doing so out of the goodwill, because what you've seen now is that the Clinton Foundation is not receiving those types of donations anymore. So clearly it was a pay-to-play scam, and now there should be a much larger investigation to bring it to light, because the Clintons have always operated, it's one set of rules for everyone else and a different set of rules for them.
Corey,
that's the truth.
Corey, you just swallowed the biggest...
Antoine, hold on. I want to ask you that. I want to follow up on what Corey just said. If we've seen a drop-off in donations, if donations weren't meant to get access to Hillary Clinton, why the drop-off?
That just means perhaps people have moved on, and maybe the Clintons have moved on in courting those donors. Corey just swallowed the biggest pill of hypocrisy I've ever seen. Now, here we have the president and the Republican majority trying to strike fear in the American people about investigation after investigation if the Democrats take over the Congress. And now you're saying here tonight, Corey, that it's okay. The Congress has a responsibility to investigate. So which one is it? You can't have your cake and eat it too, my friend. We know that this is their last political straw by the Republicans to drive a wedge into the real issues in this country and separate Democrats from Republicans, and that's what this is all about.
Well,
It's
Antoine,
not.
I'm pretty sure
Congress has an obligation to investigate, and they should investigate Clinton and Comey and McCabe and Jim
Ivanka
Baker,
Trump
who was
emails
the
at the
general
same time.
counsel.
Hold on, Antoine. Wait your turn.
Let's go into the email system.
Let's do it.
Right?
Well, Antoine, hold on.
Ivanka Trump did not bleach bit 33,000 emails on a private server or have classified emails on her own server and say, whoops, I didn't know as a Secretary of State or as a former U.S. Senator that I can't store classified information on my own private server. She never did that. So let's go and investigate Hillary Clinton for putting out classified information onto Huma Abedin's server, of which her ex-husband had access to. The FBI knew about it and didn't prosecute any of them, but actually gave them leniency because they claimed they had attorney-client privilege between them all. Cheryl Mills, Huma Abedin, and Hillary Clinton. You should read the book. All the information's in there.
Antoine, does none of this concern you at all? I mean, you look at it, one of the things that we know the DOJ is looking into, potential pay to play. You look at things like the Associated Press reported about Clinton donors getting access to Hillary Clinton with meetings. You know that Bahrain Prince went to the Clinton Foundation to try to get access to Hillary Clinton when he couldn't get to her via the State Department. You look at things like the International Business Times reporting that arms sales increased to Clinton Foundation donors. How does none of this concern you?
Lisa, what you and Corey and I both know, all three of us know, is that if there was an inch of wrongdoing by the Clintons, it would have been headline front and center all the way through every news outlet you can imagine in this country. And the investigation would have been the top front and center of this network and every other right-wing network you can imagine. You and I both know that. There is no there, and I think we're going to find this out. And this is just the last straw by the Republicans who are going to make their way to the majority next year to try to raise an issue where there's no issue.
Well, Corey, we don't know that yet, do we? I mean, the DOJ is looking into this. We actually don't have those answers.
Trump's
if there was illegal
DOJ, Lisa, would have settled this by now.
That took place. Well, they're looking into it, Antoine. Corey?
We don't know what the bottom line is, but what we do know is that the Inspector General is still looking at the crooked members of the FBI, whether that's Comey or McCabe, who was fired, or Page or Strzok. Look, that's a fact. The IG is looking into those people. The Deputy Director of the FBI has been referred to a criminal referral for lying under oath on 3 separate occasions. We know that they were part of the Clinton team, that Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr, who was his wife, was part of Fusion GPS. They're all tied to the Clinton cabal, and we're going to find out once and for all what they did to try and subvert the will of the American people, and if they were involved in any way, shape, or form in falsifying a FISA application to spy on American citizens. Because if Donald Trump wasn't elected, we wouldn't know anything about those things.
Corey,
Antoine, real quick.
Corey, bless your heart. You've done a good job of repeating the facts.
Antoine, you and bless your heart. I know this from you.
You've done a good job. Good job of repeating talking points, but you know, and I know that that's a different set of reality, and that's fact. That's fiction, not fact.
All right. Well, we're going to
I say happy Thanksgiving. It's a good fact.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving to you both. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.